Good morning, people. Chapter today is management control and process. So we'll start with it. What is control? We've already done it before. Control is in an organization means controlling some things, wherein uh, to check if things are being done properly, the employees, the systems, the structure is working towards the ultimate goal of the organization. So control process can be defined as activities involved in ensuring a process is predictable, stable, and consistently operating at the target level of performance with only normal variation. Its objective is to spot and correct any weaknesses and mistakes that an organization may be committing. So, so control process checks there is a standard which is set, and the control process checks uh, whether the things are going perfectly according, or rather according to the standard that has been set. There can be normal variations. There has to be normal variations because everything is dynamic today, so normal variations are acceptable. However, when it varies, when it doesn't go well, then the control process is not effective. So let's move ahead. What are the features of control process? Control is a managerial process: planning, controlling, organizing, staffing, direct. Yes, planning, because you make a standard, you set a standard, then you control it, you organize, you have people, you staff people accordingly. That is called optimal utilization of resources. Where exactly do you have to put in the staff? Which department needs more staff? Directing them, assisting them. It is forward looking. Uh, any control process, for example, there is something that has already been done, you cannot go in the past and change it. So any control process takes care of any variation that has to be taken care of, that can be done only in the past. It cannot be done going back in the past. It exists at each level. You understand it? Every employee of an organization needs to have control. However, it may differ. Top management is in strategic control, middle in task control. Top management plans it. Top management sets the standard. So they are in strategic control. Strategic is vision of 5-10 years ahead. So top management looks into it, and middle management looks at the task control. Control is a continuous process. Yes, it is, because it happens regularly. There is nothing as in control can be done once in 1 year. Control can happen once in twice in 1 year. It is a continuous process. Okay, control is closely linked with planning. Why is control linked with planning? Because planning, when the top management plans, they set a standard, and then control sees that the things, that the processes that are taking place are happening according to the standards set, according to the plan that has been set. So control therefore is closely linked with the planning. Control processes, because every objective, goals, policy, and procedure of a company are set, and performance is compared with those. Control process helps find any deviation, and corrective measures are thus taken. Purpose of controlling is goal oriented and hence positive. Control is goal oriented, hence negative deviations are corrected, which makes control positive for both the organization and individual. Yes, it is, because it is goal oriented. The plan has been set, the standards have been set. Any deviation any deviation, negative deviation, if nothing is, if there is some problem, if there is some deviation which is negative, which is not according to what the standard has been set, then control comes into place, and it controls the negative deviations. Okay, what happens in control? We understand the features of control process, such as what constitutes a control process. However, there are certain plans and procedures that are followed while exercising control. Those are: establish the standards, tangible and intangible. Establishing standards is, again, it's a criteria against which results are measured. You set a standard. uh, if you have worked, you must have worked in organizations wherein they say standard operating procedures. So these are the standards. What exactly has the standard been set by the top level management? And then there is intangible and tangible standards. Tangible standards may be like cost, income, productivity, and intangible standards are something that cannot be seen or cannot be touched. That can be loyalty, goodwill, quality. So these are something which are intangible standards which need to be maintained. They cannot be told in very clear terms, although these days it is starting to happen, but loyalty is something which is intangible and which comes from your inside. It doesn't have to be taught. So although these days it is being told implicitly in the belief systems of an organization, this is also being told. However, so this is how the standards are maintained. Standards are set, measure actual performance. Then what does control do? It measures the actual performance in quantitative terms. Uh, what actually has been achieved? There definitely, if you have set a standard of 100, you cannot or you may not get 100. So what is it that you have actually got? So it measures the actual performance. Compare performance with the standards. After you have measured the performance, then you compare the performance with the standards. Because if you do not compare, how would you know whether it's a negative deviation or a positive deviation? This is where control process comes into picture. It also takes corrective action and reinforcement of success. Control process, after after establishing the standard, measuring the performance, comparing the performance, it also gives suggestions and recommendations how to take corrective action. So why is control important? Because it can give accurate data. Effective control generates accurate data and information. Yes. Timeliness, controls ensure that the data and information reaches the decision-making authority in time. If you do not have an effective control system, if there is any negative deviation that needs to be sent to the authorities concerned, if there is no effective control, the information will not be sent at the time it should be sent, and there can be negative impacts on the organization as well. So it is very important for a control process. An effective control process would be would keep would keep time also into consideration. Flexibility. The control process, if flexible, allows changes quickly as the business environment is highly dynamic today. Acceptability. A good control system is acceptable to all stakeholders. It should be acceptable. employees who are working in the organization, it should be acceptable to them as well. If they are okay with this control process integration, effective control systems work in harmony with the organizational policies as it is consistent with values and cultures. Yes, it integrates. It is not something which is different from the organizational culture. It is coherent, it is integrated along with the organization policies. The staff that is working there, it should be acceptable to them. They should also think that this control process is effective. Economic feasibility. A good control system must be balanced against its benefit. You cannot have a control system which is very expensive and that really does not, I would say, that really does not make sense. You have a control process wherein for something or for a data which is very sensitive, you have a you for a government department or something which is related to defense, you have a control process, you have something for controlling that data which is very expensive, then it is okay. It matters, it certainly matters that because the economic feasibility of that control process, the data, it's so sensitive that it requires a good control process. However, for example, in an office, there are office stationaries kept in a room, and you have a control process to monitor that, and which is again the same expensive control process monitoring the sensitive defense data, the same control process as monitoring your office supplies, the stationery supplies to your office. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't, because defense data is very sensitive. However, the office supplies, the stationery for an office is not really very important, so you do not need the same control system which you would need for the defense data for the stationery of your office. So this is how the economic feasibility is worked out. It should not be so expensive that it benefits outdo it. Strategic placement. A good control system would be in place where it is needed the most. Corrective action. A good system would be able to take corrective action when the need arises. Emphasis on exception. Control process, if effective, should bring to the notice any deviations that really need the focus of the management. A good control system would pinpoint the deviations or negative deviations and would show it to the management, because management would see if there is any deviation and the control process should be able to identify that. This is a case study, people, here. An example of ineffective control system can be Enron. You must have heard about Enron, an American energy and services company that had approximately 20,000 employees and was America's and world's one of the biggest companies. It was named America's most innovative company for 6 consecutive years. However, it was reported in the end of 2001 that its financial statements were manipulated in the way to show such huge profits by a systematic and planned accounting fraud. Enron filed for bankruptcy in December 2001. So this could have been averted by having an effective control process. However, this also shows ethics issue in employees. You can have a control process. If there was an effective control process, probably Enron malpractices could have been avoided, could have been come out in the open, but it didn't, because it was a planned accounting fraud. It was a very big fraud, and Enron had after that had to file for bankruptcy. this could have been avoided had they had a good control process. Having said that, a control process, as I mentioned earlier, should be in collaboration, should be integrated with the organizational policies and beliefs. The employees working there should also be morally, should be genuine people. They should not really, because this shows their ethics. They are not loyal towards the company they're working with. So along with the control process, the ethic issues also comes out in the open with the Enron process, with the Enron bankruptcy and fraud, because the employees were not loyal towards the company; they were fraudsters. So this is about the control process. However, let me tell you something: that control process is good to have. It is good to have control and management in organizations, because when you're working, it's very important to have control over the several employees, the staff, the organization as a whole, because every organization has to be in control. But having excessive control also is bad, because this can negatively affect employees. You can make control process in consideration. Rather, the employees also should be a part of the formulation of the control process, because if they are part of it, they would follow it, they would understand that it is needed. If they're not, they do not really understand why this control is needed. So if they also become a part of it, it becomes more understandable to them. They understand the need for the control process. And this if there is excessive control, this may lead to less employee satisfaction, less morale, and finally it may lead to uh, employees leaving the organization. So everything, even the control process in balance, it should be there. It should not be excessive, it should not be very less, so that employees take undue advantage of it. So that's about it, people. And these are the questions. So that's it from me today. Thank you for listening. Bye.